Hi, my name is Carina and welcome to the Carina Chronicles. In this video I'm going to tell you all my thoughts about Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, both the book as the movie I just saw in the cinema. So let's start. I read this book I think about a year ago and I was so excited but also so nervous because everyone seemed to love this book and it kind of came out of nowhere because it is a debut novel by Delia Owens. She did write other books but those were not novels, they were nature books and they described her life that she's living with her husband in actually nature. She is a biologist of some kind and she inspects nature, she knows a lot about it and she wrote books about that. And those were really popular and apparently because those were so popular she thought it might be a good idea to write a story that she had in her head. And it's apparently kind of autobiographic but just with a lot of plot developed around it. And that is quite good. That is an interesting concept to start your book with. And that made me quite nervous because it feels a little bit the same as when famous people write books. I don't know if they do that everywhere, but in the Netherlands it's really a thing. If people get a little bit of fame, they feel like they are now suited to write a book. Which I really don't get because that's really another job and really another talent that you should have. That you are famous doesn't mean that you can write a book. But that is just a pet peeve of mine. That's of course not what Delia Owens was thinking, like, oh, I'm famous, I'm going to write this. But I was still a little bit nervous. And this story is about a girl in the marsh. She's called the Marsh Girl. And this is in North Carolina, I believe. Yeah, the North Carolina coast. And she lives with her family, but there's a lot of domestic abuse in this family. And after a lot of developments, she ends up being alone in the marsh as a very young girl. And she grows up there, so her only real friend is the nature there and all the animals that live there. And the village that is close to this, they know her, but they mostly know of her. No one ever talks to her, they just hear the stories. And of course there are a lot of myths around this girl. She's actually called Kaya. And there are a lot of myths surrounding her. There are some people that feel like they need to take care of her or want to take advantage of her. So in her life she encounters some events with other people. So some are maybe a bit romantic, some are not so pleasant, others are friendly, or people try to parent her a little bit. But in the end she's always alone with nature. And we follow her through her life and these different things that she encountered. But in the meantime, there is another plot in the present day where a murder has happened in the marsh and she is the suspect of this murder. So in the book we follow two police officers that are investigating this murder and all the gossip they hear about the Marsh Girl and why they are suspecting her. And in the book we follow that perspective and then we have quite some flashbacks and I think, I don't remember very clearly, but that the flashbacks are because Kaya is telling her lawyer how her life was happening. But we see all these events, so good ones, bad ones, just her living in the marsh, in this beautiful nature, her encounters with other people. That must lead up to why she is innocent, and the police officers, of course, try to find evidence to prove that she's actually guilty of murdering this popular guy of the village. So let me start with the positive side, because in the end I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. And the positives of this is that it is really original. It is kind of a murder mystery, but definitely not the vibes of a murder mystery. So if you like that, then this might not be the one for you. But it is, the murder mystery is just really something to get the plot going, but it's actually more about Kaya's life and about the nature there. And the murder mystery makes it for something extra interesting. And I think that is really nicely done, because when have you ever that there are so many genres in one book actually, because it could be described as a romance because there's a lot of talk about her relationships, her romantic relationships with other people, but it could be contemporary, it could be more nature, it could have been non-fiction nature if the murder wasn't in there. It's a murder mystery. It's a coming of age story in some way. So it has so many genres in one book, and I thought it was very, very interesting. And it makes me also understand why so many people like it. In the bookstore where I work, this book has been published, I think, like 2 years ago in Dutch. And since then, we still sell multiple copies of this book every day in the bookstore where I work, and we have a very small bookstore. Like, if we would sell 100 books per day, still 4 of them would be this book. It's incredible. It's even more than Lucinda Riley with the Seven Sisters and stuff that won all the prizes of most sold books in the Netherlands the last few years. This is even more so. And it also is because this copy is 10 euros, and in the Netherlands that is like ridiculously cheap. Usually paperbacks are like 20 euros or even more expensive, and this book is 10, so it makes for a perfect gift. So I think that is a part of it, but it's still incredible. And I think that is because it has so many genres in one book that you always feel safe to give it to someone, because everyone might like it. And it appears to be the case indeed. My aunt really loved this book. My mother and I are quite on the same page with this. We were not that impressed, but we also didn't dislike it. So it feels like a safe choice to give to anyone, because everyone seems to love it. So that is the positive side. Then for me, the negative side of the book is the writing, which I feel sorry to say, but you could really feel that Delia Owens usually writes about nature, because the way she described the nature, it just made you travel to the place and you wanted to be there and everything. I don't know. I just felt like I was in the marsh myself, and that was so beautiful. It really was something special, and it really made me want to continue this book. But as soon as someone opened their mouth and a dialogue started, I was so distracted, because I really felt that it was very unnatural and not believable, and also not very good. It was a lot of tell, don't show. Everything was told, especially the conversations between the police officers were so weird, because they told literally everything that was going through their mind. And conversations just don't work like that. People leave a lot of thoughts out when they talk, and also people can, by seeing each other's faces, fill in a lot of blanks, so you don't have to specialize which feeling you are expressing. And I know that's difficult in only words, but a lot of authors can do it, and Delia Owens didn't do it. And it really distracted me and also made me feel like it's not a very good book. But again, a lot of people love this, and I think that if you don't read that many books, you might not notice that it is something that you notice when you read a lot of books and you know how it can be done and how it was not done in this book. So that's why I actually didn't like this book, but I loved the plot, I loved the ending, and I loved the characters as well, I think. So actually everything about this book was great, except for the writing style and the way it was written. So if you can read through those things, I think this would be a perfect book for you. But now, on to what I thought about the movie. Actually, the movie is a funny thing. I watched it in the cinema and I had exactly the same feelings about the movie as I had about the book. It was beautiful, obviously, because seeing all these images that you already created when you were reading the book come to life on the screen was incredible. But we watched it in the cinema, so there was a break in between. There was a break at the moment, this is not a spoiler because you know it happens in every book, that she had a mental breakdown on the beach. That was the moment that the break was. And before the break, I thought the movie was very bad. Very bad. I took my boyfriend there and he didn't read the book and he was like, what are we actually watching? It felt like a very cliche love story and it was very repetitive. Very repetitive. I didn't notice in the book, but she kept saying the same things and feeling the same things and their interactions were the same. And the first part of the movie were just that. Her falling in love with this boy and it not really working out, or maybe it does work out but not really, and well, it was a very cliche love story. And also the perspective of the police officers was completely left out. You of course see that the murder has taken place, but you see very little, at least in the first half, of them in the courtroom and of the police agents actually investigating. Their talks are left out. And you don't really get into the murder plot because you're just busy with romance. And apart from that, which I find a little bit more difficult to actually criticize, but I thought that the main character in the first half, which is a very young girl because Kaya is very young there still, it didn't act very well. So I got in a conversation about this with my mom and also later with a friend. How much can you expect from children? Because I hope that they don't pressure her too hard, you know? You can't ask everything from children. They are just children. It's already kind of weird that they need to work in a movie. But on the other hand, there are a lot of children that can do it. We just watched Obi-Wan, the spin-off TV series on Disney Plus from Star Wars. And Princess Leia is very young there. And she's literally a very young child in there. And that is such a great actress. You believe everything she's doing. And I don't know, I feel like there are a lot of children that way. So maybe it would have been better to have someone that doesn't look that much as the main character when she's older. And just have a child that knows how to act, that it feels a little bit real. Because you don't have to expect very complex things of them, because they are also children in the movie, so that's fine. Just more real emotions, even if they are a little bit out of place. I think I would have liked it more if she seemed happy when she shouldn't be, than her obviously faking to be sad. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't really like that. But then the second part of the movie, after the breakdown, actually was quite good. It was actually quite good. So it got a lot more emotional, it got a lot more intense, the acting went better. A lot of the awkward conversations were out now, because it was not only about the romance anymore, because the awkward conversations that I thought were written not so nice were also in the movie, but then they kept on repeating, so really annoying. But in the second part, those were not that common anymore, because the romance wasn't the main plot anymore. And I actually really liked it, and I thought it was very true to the book, so that's also very good, because I'm happy they didn't change everything. That's never what you should do when you're adapting a book into a movie. So I actually quite liked that. We were quite emotional in the end, so that's good, I think, because then they touched something within us. So that is good. And something that was quite different is that in the end of the book, everything is explained. So the murder mystery is solved. I don't think that's a spoiler because I don't say... I think you expect it, right? Otherwise it would be weird. So the murder is solved in the end. And everything is explained. And in the movie we just see that the murder is solved. And then you have to fill in yourself what that would have meant. How that could have happened. And everything around that. So my boyfriend thought that was for the better, because it would have been weird if they just had kind of an epilogue where everything was explained. And I think that is true, but I really liked it in the book, that you felt that everything fitted together and everything made sense suddenly. So that could go both ways, but was at least something that differed from the story in the book. So yeah. In the end, I think I would also give the movie 3 out of 5 stars, or maybe 3.5. I liked it a little more, but the first half of the movie was not so good. So it was not that good, but enjoyable. And again, because there are so many genres in one, although it's definitely not an action movie, but there are so many genres into one, it makes for a perfect thing to watch with people that you don't really have the exact similar taste with. And that is great. How many things do you have that have that? Because the book is like that and the movie is also like that. So I did really like that. And that was actually it, my comparison between the book Where the Crawdads Sing and the movie. In the end, I liked them both, but I wasn't really impressed. But I would recommend it to almost everyone, which is something special. So if you have any spare time, I would recommend you to read it, to create your own opinion. Please leave down in the comments what you thought of the book or the movie, if you have enjoyed any of these. And if you like this video, please leave a like. Also let me know if you want me to do another book to movie or TV series adaptation video. I got a recommendation, I think it was something with vampires. Was it The Vampire Diaries or Interview with a Vampire maybe? Well, I am going to read that book somewhere in the semi-near future. So if that's the case, then I will also watch the movie, but I am of course not watching the movies before I read the book, so I'm only doing these videos when I actually read the book before. You understand me. So there are a lot more on my list that I could do, but this is a more recent one, so I like that. Well, anyway, if you subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell, you will be notified whenever I post a new video. I hope you'll have a lovely day filled with books, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye! I was so curious for this movie, and I am happy that it actually turned out to be at least okay. I mean, it's such a disappointment when a book that you've recently read gets an adaptation and it's very bad. But that was not the case.